My fellow Americans, I'm pleased to tell you today that I've signed legislation that will outlaw Russia forever. We begin bombing in 5 minutes.
It is essential that our team learns to work with our new recruit, not against him.
I'm a geek, walking down the street.
Check the computer, the mainframe computer.
I access the mainframe.
At the end of this day, one shall stand, one shall fall. Time to find out.
Welcome to Basically a Geek Show. Here are your hosts, Mike and Jack.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 27 of Basically a Geek Show, the 8th wonder of the world. I need to break that line out every now and then just to keep it real, you know?
I thought that was King Kong.
You know what? I saw that movie, the Peter Jackson version. It sucked, and it was so long that the girl I brought on a date to it in high school fell asleep during it because it took them like an hour and a half to get to the goddamn island.
The movie that kills relationships before they can even start.
Exactly. So you know what? Fuck King Kong. We're the 8th wonder of the world now. But we're going to start off on a somber note. Robin Williams has passed away.
Yeah, kind of surprising. Now, I am known as being a person who sometimes gets their news from unconventional sources.
Hitler parodies rant.
I.e., yes, Hitler rants parodies. This one actually came to me by way of trade chat in World of Warcraft.
You should all get your news.
Right, exactly. And that's why, like, as soon as they're like, oh, Robin Williams is dead. Cause someone, of course, you know, it is wild trade chat. So, of course, there was a joke made. Something like, my healer died faster than Robin Williams, or something like that. And I'm like, what? What the fuck are you talking about? Mm. And, you know, of course, never take anything these cretins say, you know, seriously. So I went on CNN and looked at it and like, well, son of a bitch. What the hell, man? Why is it always like people we like that off themselves? Why is it ever like, I don't know, all of Congress? I mean, why doesn't a scuzzy politician just fucking hang himself or something? Why is it always the people we fucking like that do this shit?
Robin Williams is dead, but John Boehner's still alive.
And where's the fucking John Boehner, Nancy Pelosi, both sides of the aisle, they're all fucking kicking and screaming because they're too damn evil to die. But no, Robin Williams, no, he checks out and leaves us with these idiots.
Yeah, you know what? I still haven't fully gone over the death of Billy Mays, so this is going to be hard.
Yeah, Robin Williams, I mean, in terms of his movies, he was always kind of hit or miss with me. I loved Man of the Year. I loved Good Morning Vietnam. Good Will Hunting was okay.
I got Good Will Hunting confused. Dead Poet Society.
Yeah, no, I do like of course, you know, I wish they would have made the sequel that they pretended to be making in Jane Silent Bob, Good Will Hunting 2, Hunting Season. But, you know, that's another thing. But yeah, no, it's sad. You know, we had Harold Ramos, earlier and now Robin Williams, and it just kind of blows, man. My tolerance for this is, being dwindled down a bit.
Yeah, in terms of movies, Robin Williams' movies, like he was kind of always hit and miss with his movies, but what I remember most about Robin Williams was his stand-up. Particularly the live show he did in New York around 2002, 2003, I can't remember the exact year. But, that show combined with George Carlin's show that he did immediately post 9/11, those two stand-up comedy albums pretty much got me through high school because, you know, come French class, you think I was paying attention? No. I was listening to stand-up comedy because it didn't bore me. But basically, yeah, those two stand-up routines kind of really shaped my developing sense of humor. And you know, they're just fun. They were just fun to watch when you could get the DVD versions of it. I mean, Robin Williams was a guy who, when he did stand-up, he'd go out And all you need to do is give him one bottle of water, and he would be good to go for like 2 hours of just frantic, hilarious material without well, he sweated a lot, but without, having to stop, without losing his track. He could just go.
Yeah, no, he never, like, when he was doing his stand-up, I don't really recall ever having seen him, like, break tempo, break pace. When he was out there, he kept it going pretty much the entire time.
His single greatest line, I think, and is when he was talking about George W. Bush's ADD. I know the economy is bad. Oh, look at Kitty. And I don't know why.
That was an actual quote, though.
What's that?
Yes, no, Bush actually did that.
See, I did not know that.
It's not like a literal quote, but it did happen. He was talking in the White House, he was talking at the White House, like on the front lawn or whatever, and he says, "Oh, look, there's this kitty over there." And then he goes back on talking about, and he kind of realizes that he just, brain farted and said that out loud, and he kind of looks like, oh, and, he keeps on going. I did good content, but, my other favorite Bushism, I'm convinced that humans and fish can coexist peacefully.
Yeah.
That one was fucking great.
George Bush, really a shame that man didn't win the Nobel Prize for finally, brokering the peace treaty between fish and human.
Yeah. I guess that war will just continue to rage on.
That was really,
my money's on Long John Silver's.
Never count them out in their ability to fry large portions of fish at once. But yes, Robin Williams, it's one that, even people, it's strange. Like, you see people who generally don't get broken up about celebrity deaths. Even, I saw a lot of those people feeling this one. It's like, oh, Robin Williams died? Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. When of course, I'm 35 and, growing up in the early 80s, like the first sitcom I ever remember actually watching was Mork and Mindy.
See, I never saw Mork and Mindy. My entire experience of Mork and Mindy was the fact, you remember the show Get Smart?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Okay, see, I like Get Smart. And my dad loved it. So back in the early 90s when they ran a marathon, this channel that showed like old sitcoms TV shows, they ran a marathon to Get Smart, like every episode ever made for like 2 days, I think it was like a week, maybe.
TV Land here in the States used to do that. You had Nick at Night and TV Land, and they would run, old shows. Mm-hmm. Now they run like the fucking Cosby Show.
But like,
which, I guess that's kind of, but still,
But, so my dad, recorded like every episode of Get Smart ever made, and he had them all on these VHS tapes, and I'd watch them. And it was really surreal because like he would record them, he watched them for a bit, and then they went into like the drawer and remained untouched until like the mid 2000s when I was in high school and sort of rediscovered them and started rewatching them.
Yeah.
And so, and like, it was kind of surreal because on one hand, I'm a teenager and I'm watching these tapes and I'm seeing commercials back from the 90s. So like, oh, I haven't seen that commercial in forever. So that was kind of neat. But because it was on a channel that, showed old TV shows, of course, they also showed Mork and Mindy. And so in between the episodes of Get Smart, you'd see like, and join us for Mork and Mindy, and then they'd show clips from the show. So my entire experience of Mork and Mindy comes from those TV spots. And all I can gather from it is that he's an alien and he wears this rainbow sweater.
Yeah, that's really all I even remember about the show. I was like, I don't know, 2, maybe? I think the show was out in like 1982, so I would have been 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. And, that's, the first actual sitcom I remember ever having watched. I remember being quite fond of it because, well, Robin Williams was a goofy motherfucker. Mm-hmm. And, little kids love goofy shit. Mm-hmm. So, good stuff though, and that does suck. I don't know, and I might get some flack for this. If so, that's fine. I I get, sad when something like this happens, but I get angry too if it's a suicide. I mean, this is a voluntary act that this occurred. So that kind of alters my grief a bit.
Mm-hmm.
It saddens me, of course, and it also pisses me off, though. I understand the man had problems, and I wish he could have found a way to resolve them a different way, of course.
By all accounts, he seemed to have been struggling with depression since his early career, it seems. Perhaps, in all likelihood, even before then. And
that's kind of sorry.
And I just want to say, I know, for example, in that stand-up comedy routine, one of the more, it's aged fairly well, but one of the parts that hasn't aged well of that routine is where he defends Lance Armstrong, because Lance Armstrong back then was still an all-American hero. And actually Robin Williams and Lance Armstrong had, they were close friends in actuality. So, I know for a fact that when Lance Armstrong basically came out and said, I cheated with those Tour de France wins, essentially, Robin Williams was already kind of having trouble that kind of apparently knocked him off the wagon, if I'm remembering my timeline correctly, but I know that, he always had depression, and he always had issues with depression, and it's just sad to see that, it got to the point where he just decided, to end it, because you know what? The man was funny, the man was talented, and the man brought, legitimate entertainment and laughter to millions and millions of people.
Indeed.
Moving on to sad stories about funny people, we move on to
funny stories about sad people.
Funny stories about sad comic book characters. Let's talk about Aquaman.
Oh, Jesus.
I believe his name is Jason Momoa, the rumored to play him. From Game of Thrones, the Conan reboot, and again, I said if you've seen the Conan reboot, you'd be wary about Aquaman from the get-go, because he's fighting Game of Thrones where he doesn't actually have to act.
Yeah, all he has to do in Game of Thrones is grunt. I mean,
But no, I saw him in Conan where they actually gave him dialogue, and he actually was supposed to have a character. And I'm willing to say it was possibly a piss poor script, but it doesn't hold a lot of confidence going forward. And then, of course, there are rumors that he's going to be shoehorned into the Dawn of Justice Batman versus Superman movie, which is already crowded enough as it is. And then, on top of all of that, we get the news that Warner Brothers is developing 2 separate Aquaman scripts. So, why don't you give us your thoughts on that, Jack?
Well, the thing with this is, I mean, I get that it's not an uncommon practice to do this, to, have 2 separate scripts being written at the same time, with the conventional wisdom being that, they'll just go with the better of the 2. What I think is going to be amusing is if they end up just kind of Frankensteining the 2 scripts together.
That's generally what happens, and it kind of shows it shows whenever they try to do this. I don't know if anyone else thought this way, but in Age of Extinction, Transformers Age of Extinction, you kind of have 2 villains, Galvatron and Lockdown, and it kind of seems like the scripts that had Galvatron for a villain and the scripts that had Lockdown for a villain were kind of smushed together, because they kind of never appear on screen at the same time and they never interact with one another.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in Age of Extinction, it's like they have the scene where Galvatron's forces are fighting the Autobots, and then Galvatron just disappears as soon as Lockdown shows up, and it's like, I can tell where, the 2 scripts were kind of pushed together here. And I kind of even got that feeling with The Dark Knight Rises, a movie I really like, because it seemed to struggle in whether or not they wanted to make Bane an agent of Ra's al Ghul in the League of Shadows, or if they wanted to make him more of a social revolutionary. Because you had the Occupy Gotham stuff, but then you also had his whole, I'm going to blow things up and fulfill the destiny of Ra's al Ghul. And it's sort of, and again, like, I don't know. I don't know what the scripting process was for that movie either, but again, it kind of just felt, you know, like two separate ideas were being, you know, meshed together.
Yeah, and in this case, here, let me... Yeah, they've got two separate people writing these scripts. Mm-hmm. Let me take a look here.
Will Beal.
Will Beal.
He worked on the movie Gangster Squad, which I've got a lot of flack, but I saw it, and like it wasn't great, but you know it was fine. It was a decent movie where people shot at each other, and he also writes for the show Castle. Oh God, what's his name? The guy from Firefly, the lead guy from Firefly. I just blanked on his name.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, his show Castle, apparently Will Beal works on that. And we've got Kurt Johnstad, who has written both 300 and the sequel 300 Rise of an Empire. So
right. Now, so, you know, the whole thing with Will Beal being one of the writers that they've tapped for this, Giggity, is that, you know, he's known for being pretty ambitious. And, you know, there's thinking that, you know, well, maybe that's why.
Nathan Fillion, that's his name. Sorry.
Maybe, thank
Castle.
you. Yeah. Maybe, you know, maybe they have him doing this because of the fact that they know people don't want, for the most part, a fucking Aquaman movie. I mean, Zack Snyder had to go on a radio show. He called in a radio show when they were making fun of Aquaman. You leave Aquaman alone.
Yeah, Zack Snyder, who, by the way, okay, so Christopher Nolan gives us 3 great Batman movies. And then
Zack Snyder gives us the clap. And
then it's like they go, well, you know, Christopher Nolan, he seems to know what he's doing with our superhero movies. Let's hand the reins over to Zack Snyder. Instead of Christopher Nolan, we're going to have Zack Snyder helming our superhero universe. That's fantastic, you know, okay. But yeah, Zack Snyder actually had to call into a Detroit radio station and defend their decision to make this movie.
Zack Snyder, if you hear this show and would like to come on and defend Aquaman, we welcome the challenge, sir. We have things that we would like to say to you.
And if you think it would just be all bashing, keep in mind, I actually did like Man of Steel. So
I did too. I love the scene where Kevin Costner got sucked into a tornado. That shit was awesome. I'm like, you know what, fucker? That's what you get for Waterworld. That's what you fucking get. That's what you get. That's what you get for showing me your fucking ass at every fucking movie you were in the 90s. Fuck you, Kevin Costner. Get sucked into that tornado. Get fucked. I love that scene. You're like, yeah, when you're telling me, you're like, I actually kind of cried. I'm like, I laughed my ass off. Good fucking riddance. I'm just glad the tornado didn't suck his pants off and we had to see his old flabby ass for 10 seconds before he got sucked up in there.
Yeah, the scene where the Robin Hood movie that he starred in, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, where all of a sudden he's like, there's just naked Kevin Costner in it for no reason. It adds nothing to the story. It's not in there because it makes sense for him to be naked. He's just naked.
I guess they thought it was eye candy for the ladies or something because a lot of chicks at the time were like, oh, Kevin Costner, I want to have his babies. I want him inside of me. Kevin Costner. And maybe that's what it was for, which, I mean, guys get enough eye candy. Yes, I don't begrudge ladies their eye candy. But at least, like, if they do eye candy for men, it's usually just like having a chick wear something that's kind of, you know, revealing or tight or whatever. And she can wear that while she advances the story. We don't have to, like, pause to see, usually at least, we don't have to pause to see, you know, 10 seconds of a gratuitous ass shot before we go on. And, you know, this has been your moment of ass. Now back to your movie.
Except for Michael Bay, who started Dark of the Moon with a gratuitous ass shot, and then that movie made over $1 billion, so.
You know, it was a nice ass shot though. But yeah, no, I get it.
But yeah, so Zack Snyder, you know, I liked Man of Steel. Jack liked Man of Steel. We're not gonna hate on you, but if you want to come on and defend Aquaman, like, I don't know what it is. I hope the Aquaman movie comes out. I hope it comes out the same weekend that Ant-Man comes out. I want to see that battle of titans at the box office.
Oh, Lord.
Ant-Man, who turns really tall, and Aquaman, who's useless when he's not in the water.
Yeah. I mean, it's...
Do you think when they finally make the Justice League movie, they're going to have the scene where Aquaman is told to stay and guard the base?
I hope so. Aquaman's like, he's like, the Bumblebee or the Wheelie. Stay and guard the base. But I guarded the base last week, Superman. Stay and guard the fucking base. Okay. But I could be you. We're going to Death Valley, Aquaman. There's no water. There's cactuses. Shut the fuck up and guard the base.
That's where Lex Luthor has his death ray, in Death Valley. You don't need to come. Fuck you, Aquaman. And yeah, I don't know. It just seems like, this whole thing, it seems like they just want, I think Zack Snyder even said, he wants a badass Aquaman movie, and this is their way to get it. They're trying to, bring out the best of these writers, and they're trying to get the best possible Aquaman movie. And, look, I understand, yes, there are mythical elements to Aquaman's backstory. He's king of Atlantis. You can do all kinds of cool stuff with Atlantis. And... but at the end of the day, it's Aquaman. And if you're going to do this DC shared cinematic universe, if you're going to say all of these movies are connected, then you're basically saying Aquaman's really only going to be useful within his own movie, where you can tailor the entire script to meet Aquaman's limited range as a hero. But he's basically a waterbender. Exactly. He's the guy who he's DC's guy who talks to fish. Marvel has one to Namor, and Namor's actually kind of an asshole. But the point being is that once you get outside of that, once you have the Aquaman, once you establish the Justice League movie, once you have to have a movie that Aquaman's in that can't just be catered to Aquaman, then all of those jokes people make about Aquaman are going to be justified. And then, once you've done that, and you've essentially ruined the character in the minds of the film-going public, they're not going to see a standalone Aquaman movie. No, this is not happening.
And, I don't know, it's almost like they know people don't like Aquaman on the whole. I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't have his friends, his fans, I know there are people that do like Aquaman for whatever reason. I've heard the argument, well, he could just raise up the entire ocean, just fucking smash half the planet, and okay, well, good on him. I still think he's a joke, but it's like Warner Brothers knows people don't really want to see an Aquaman movie. They don't really like the character, and they're going to try to do everything they can to fucking cram this thing down our throats. It's like the movie version, it's like the cinematic version of prison shower rape. Which Aquaman would be down with because there's water there.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Aquaman is going to, he's going to have to do a lot of work, to win, win people over. There's already a big public perception problem that he's got to overcome. So, God, all I gotta say is that they better nail that first trailer, because if that first trailer looks like it sucks, then this movie's doomed. And I'm actually not all that worried about that, because in this day and age, you can make any movie look awesome via a trailer. It's just that lately, it seems, the follow-through has been the issue. But if you can get people in the theater, that's ultimately what matters, I suppose. What do we have next on the docket, sir?
Next up is going to be, we have some news that, we don't have news at the moment necessarily. We have some news that will be released tomorrow. regarding the Warlords of Draenor release date.
World of Warcraft, their next expansion, Warlords of Draenor to supplant Mists of Pandaria, which is slowly but surely kind of twisting and winding its way to oblivion. Now,
content drought.
Yeah. So, Warlords of Draenor, they did launch a video to kind of at the expansion announcement at BlizzCon,
Right. Yeah.
but that wasn't the expansion trailer.
Right. It wasn't. Yeah, it's not the expansion, intro video. Which, Blizzard always does. They do two videos, basically. They do the one that they show you at BlizzCon, which is like, hey, this is, the expansion and here's what's going to be in it and get hard. And, then they have the other one, which is usually much higher production value.
Blizzard really does know how to make, I'd love to see them take a shot at a CGI movie, honestly.
They would do good with it, I think. I mean, they do great fucking work. They could get their, if Blizzard themselves, as a whole, if every leg of the company functioned as well as their art and animation department, WoW would have 30 fucking million subscribers.
Yeah.
I mean, hands down, and people can say what they want about WoW's graphics being outdated. I mean, is it like PS3 quality? And yes, I know we're up to 4 now, but I'm just saying, is it PS3 quality? No, not really. But is it still just beautiful and just really immersive? Yes. You can point to grass physics, which now we discovered last night upon, really noticing that they have beard physics as early as vanilla. WoW with the dangling dragon beard thing going on there. And there are boob physics if you zoom in enough and look for these things, I do.
Which you did, yes.
Which I do. Yes, which I do. And so, you've had that, so now we're getting grass physics. I still want to see the quest where it's just like, your quest, stand and look at the grass for 10 minutes, and a little timer pops up on the screen.
Yeah, but the trailer, which is going to be done in their kind of more realistic, really high quality animated film style. That comes out, I believe, is it tomorrow? When?
Yes, tomorrow morning. Well, 9 to 11 tomorrow at noon our time. Here in the real time zone of Eastern. The time zone that civilization revolves around. So it'll be around noon our time, 9 a.m. Pacific time if you're on that end of the country.
Yeah, and what's really interesting about that is not only am I psyched to sort of see this trailer, see what they've got in store in terms of storylines, but I'm also they're also going to announce the launch date of Warlords of Draenor, and we're gonna take bets on when we think Draenor is actually gonna come out, because all Blizzard says about these things is soon. So we're actually gonna get a solid date from them. So when do you think this is coming out?
I think, well, now, see, I'm using a little bit of detective work in this. They have in the latest beta build that's on their servers for the Draenor beta, they have in the WoW 10th anniversary stuff, like the achievements and all that shit. So it will be at or before then. So we know that WoW's anniversary is November 23rd. So we know it will be before November 23rd if they're putting that content data into Draenor. So we know it will be before then. We can assume that much right now. Beta still has a lot of issues, though.
See, that's why I say I don't think it's going to be before November. I think it's going to be in December.
No, I don't think it's going to be December. I think we're looking at probably a mid-November release.
I'm going to say mid-December release off the, again, the premise. As you said, beta is still in a very rough patch. In fact, in a lot of ways, I'd say that they rushed out of alpha. In a lot of ways, I'd say the beta is still functionally an alpha. just in terms of where the game is at.
With recent builds, I would say no, that they are not now. I'd say they're about halfway to where they need to be with this. They're about halfway in. So, I mean, we're August right now. I'd say that they will be at a good solid place in beta, probably by late September, early October, which would, I mean, depending on where they're at with other things, if everything goes smoothly with class balance and raid tuning, finish up some of their unpolished art assets that they have hanging out there, which I actually think they've done most of that already. I think we could be seeing a late October / early to mid-November release.
See, I think there's so much that needs to be done. And, again, I'm not really knocking Blizzard for this necessarily. I'm just saying the scope of this is just going to dictate, is dictating this timeline of mine more than anything else. It's certainly not a criticism, but I'm saying they've had to essentially create an entire new world from scratch. Granted, it is just a very big continent, but it still has to be its own self-contained world that they have to build from the ground up. And on top of that, they've got to get all of the character models updated. They've got to get the faction capitals and Ashran updated, because those were fairly late additions to the program. They were running off of the assumption that the capitals would be in Frostfire and Shadowmoon, and then they switched things up. So, the way I see it, there's just a lot that has to go into this, and I don't think there's no way they're going to let it go into 2015 without it launching. They just can't.
No, they can't.
But I do think they're going to push it, and I think it's going to come out in December of 2014. And again, that's not a criticism. I'm not saying, oh my God, Blizzard, get your head out of your ass. No, I understand, if it comes out in December of 2014, I fully understand why. But I'm just saying that everything I've seen, given the state of the beta as it is now, given everything that they need to do, everything they've said that they're going to do, and not to mention the garrison system, that's an entirely new system that they're adding. So that's probably going to have a lot of bugs that need to be worked out. And of course they're going to be they said they're going to be repairing Stormwind, so that's an entire, they've got to work that in. I
think they've already, now I haven't seen all of Stormwind on the beta server, cause I'm not in the beta yet. So, but I think they've actually got that in already.
What have they replaced? Have they rebuilt the park?
Well, I just said that I haven't seen it. Well, but I think that they've got it in.
It'll be interesting to see what they put there. The park went bye-bye. It's now a giant, flaming crater, and it's been on fire for 4 years. So, hopefully we get the park back. Or something else. I never really cared for the park, honestly. But if we got something else there, that would be neat. But one thing that kind of bugged me was seeing the, Storm Shield, the Alliance capital in Ashran. And, by and large, it looks fine, but my problem is that, once again, Worgans are getting shafted. Because, okay, the majority of it is very Stormwind-esque in its architecture. So that's humans, Stormwind. There's a Dwarven Forge part. There's a place for gnomes with their tinkering and whatnot. There's a Draenei section. There's a Night Elf section. As far as I know, no Worgen section. No Worgen section, and that peeves me, because Worgans have been getting the shorthand of the lore stick since the end of their starting experience in Kata.
Well, it could be worse. It could be Draenei. I mean, lore-wise, it really doesn't get much. I guess
they're getting some.
To get worse than Draenei, you'd have to be a gnome. But they just don't deserve any because they're fucking gnomes and they suck. And I think we all deep down know that. So, that's cool. But yeah, I had thought, at Cataclysm that there would have been a Worgen zone in, at least, if not in Stormwind, then at least in, I don't know, fucking Elwyn somewhere, like a Worgen camp or something, or Duskwood.
There are a few. There's obviously the Howling Oak in Darnassus, which was where the Gilnean Worgen refugees go to immediately after their starting zone. But there's really nothing there besides it's just a tree. Nothing really of note there. There are a few. I believe there's a Worgen camp in Stone Talon. There's a Worgen camp, I want to say in Fellwood, or somewhere in Kalendor. And then there's Surich in the Blasted Lands. And there is a Duskwood Worgen area. It's Raven Hill. But it's not a settlement. It's just like two Worgen guys in a wagon. It's kind of like it's like kind of like they wanted to give the Worgen some more zones, but then they just never got around to it because they needed to put in Thrall's wedding or something. Yeah, that's sort of my pet peeve. The Worgen really do kind of get the short end of the stick when it comes to that, and you know, all the Alliance races represented in this new capital except the Worgen. And again, as we've said, the beta's in very raw form right now, so it's entirely possible that they just haven't added it yet. But just from what I've seen so far, it doesn't appear like it's going to be added. But there's another thing I wanted to rant about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I want to back up a bit, because some of this is going to go into the canon, or the lore, if you will, of Warcraft, to really fully get where I'm coming from here. So, basically, when the orcs first came to Azeroth, it was through Azeroth being the world that World of Warcraft primarily takes place on. When the orcs first came from Draenor to Azeroth, they came through this thing called the Dark Portal. And at the end of the Second War, the humans pushed the orcs essentially back through the Dark Portal. And to make sure that they never came back, they built a fortress called Netherguard Keep. Netherguard Keep was manned from soldiers from Stormwind and mages from the human nation of Dalaran. And Netherguard Keep has since then kept watch over the Dark Portal. Obviously, right. There are orcs in Azeroth, left over from the Second War, who have formed the basis of, the current new Horde. But the idea that there were always going to be threats on Draenor, that could possibly make its way to Azeroth, the point of Netherguard Keep, was to guard against that. And, of course, now, Garrosh, Hellscream, deposed war chief of the Horde, has gone back in time to Draenor and convinced his fellow orcs to unite under the banner of the Iron Horde to conquer Azeroth from 30 years in the future. So, Garrosh sends his troops back to the future. Oh, Christ. Do not, I swear, if we pop a portal to Stormwind while we're in Draenor and you say, we're going back to you will be G-kicked. So will anyone in the guild. We're going back to the G-kick. But what happened? No, we're not doing that.
So Garrosh sends...
But don't you get it?
So Garrosh is going to send the Iron Horde, back through the Dark Portal through timey-wimey shenanigans. And he's going to send them to present-day Azeroth to invade the Iron Horde, and Netherguard Keep gets obliterated. And this kind of pissed me off, because for the third expansion...
Is Netherguard being ran by Phil Tippett?
No.
You had one job, Phil. One job.
But,
watch the fucking portal.
Goddamn amateur hour, Phil. But, basically, for the third expansion in a row, a very, notable Alliance city, in terms of the story, has been, obliterated. In Cataclysm, Self-Shore, which was one of the last remaining parts of the Kingdom of Lordaeron, got completely obliterated by the Forsaken, a Horde faction. the beginning of Pandaria, Theramore, the largest human alliance settlement in Kalimdor, south of the Night Elves, got obliterated by the Horde. And now the Iron Horde are blowing up Netherguard Keep. And I sort of understand why it would be blown up from a storyline perspective, because it is right there by the Dark Portal. And, you know, if the Iron Horde's coming through the Dark Portal, obviously that would be one of the first things in their sights.
Right, yeah.
But, so on its own, it's not that egregious, but yeah, I'm just pissed off because, again, another Alliance city has been just blown up with little to no hope that it'll actually get rebuilt in game. Again, I probably wouldn't care as much if Theramore and South Shore hadn't bit the dust unnecessarily.
Right. It's like become a thing now. Almost every expansion we have to lose something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we lost anything. Did we lose anything in Pandaria?
I'm counting Theramore as Pandaria because even though...
Okay, yeah, because that was kind of the launch event. And so, yeah, Theramore and South Shore were Pandaria.
No. South Shore was Kata.
Oh, that's right. South Shore was Kata. Theramore was Pandaria, and now Netherguard.
And here's the thing. It's like, no one really hung out at Netherguard because it's kind of out of the way and it's in a very ugly zone. And the architecture was just kind of really outdated in terms of, graphic design. But in terms of an in-game territory, it had a lot of historical significance. And again, it's like the last 3 expansions, including Draenor, 3 lore-worthy Alliance towns have been destroyed. And the Horde has yet to lose anything quite as big. Well, they have in the lore, but it never manifests itself in game. In terms of the story, the Horde has been driven out of Ashenvale, but Ashenvale won't be updated to reflect that. In terms of the story, the Horde was expelled from Dalaran, but the game isn't updated to reflect that. In terms of the story, the Alliance has reclaimed Gilneas, but the game isn't updated to reflect that. Yet all the Alliance losses get reflected in-game and have absolutely no hope of ever really going back or being rebuilt. So it's frustrating. I kind of understand why Blizzard does it. I just think that, well, they're wrong. Basically, I think in Blizzard's mind, the Alliance is the superpower and the Horde are the underdogs, and that's always going to be the case, just by the nature of the story. So it's okay to blow up Alliance towns because we can afford it. Because the Alliance can afford it, and 2, because in their minds, the Alliance is so strong that by blowing an Alliance thing up, it makes whoever the new bad guy is, be it Garrosh Hellscream or the Iron Horde, look badass and what have you. But the problem is that when they constantly do it, it kind of undermines the whole idea of the Alliance being that powerful. And it's just gotten to the point where as an Alliance player, it's frustrating. And you know what, Blizzard? I just want to see an Alliance victory or 2 be represented in game. Just a victory here or there to actually just be shown in game. Because it's getting just a bit frustrating. And what else would be nice? Maybe an expansion or 2 that focuses on an Alliance story, because since Wrath of the Lich King, we've had Cataclysm, which was Thrall Saves the World.
Yeah.
We've had Pandaria, which was Garrosh Hellscream versus Vol'jin, 2 Horde characters.
Right.
And now Warlords of Draenor, which is Garrosh and Thrall go back in time to work out their daddy issues. So we've gotten to the point now where it's just where like the Horde focus of the story has become really apparent, and an expansion or 2 that focuses on an Alliance story, it wouldn't hurt you, Blizzard, and Horde players, you guys will cope. You'll get along just fine. So that's kind of what I have to say. That's my big rant. I mean, I am excited about Warlords of Draenor. It looks cool. There seems to be a lot going on from a story perspective that seems cool. But Yeah, that's my biggest pet peeve. And again, I maintain I wouldn't be opposed to Nethergard just getting completely blown up if we didn't have this established trend of Alliance forts and towns being blown up at the start of expansions.
Yeah, I don't like. Here's what I don't like. I don't like this thing of the Alliance being used as a story prop. Someone said the other day on the NMO Champion forums, like, well, how would you, I don't see why you Alliance people are always bitching and griping. I mean, how would you like it if Stormwind got raided? And I said, honestly, I wouldn't mind. I would like it, because that would mean that for that to happen, there would have had to be some kind of Alliance-centric story. There would have to be things happening in the Alliance. Blizzard would actually have to be writing for us for a change, so I wouldn't mind it. I don't care if you take our land. I don't care if you blow up our cities. Well, I mean, I do, but I'm saying story-wise, in terms of how the game is going, what I care about is if you make it count for something, if you make it meaningful, and not just saying, oh, hey, Iron Horde came through and blew your shit up. Or, hey, LOL, garage nuke. That's my beef. That's my problem. I don't care so much that we lose territory. I care that it doesn't really feel meaningful when we do. Theramore was kind of meaningful with potentially, but it didn't really have much follow through with it, if you get what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. I guess that's my feelings, at least. And Jaina became a more interesting character in Pandaria, at least, so there's that. I mean, she's still a fuck up, but she at least, well, maybe she's not, actually, because it was vindicated that when she threw out the Sunreavers, because they actually evidently, it was confirmed by a Blizzard that yes, the Sunreavers did know about the shenanigans going on there with the Horde, and they were down with that.
Yeah, so So the purge of the Horde from Dalaran was justified, and again, I'd like to see it reflected in game through the use of phasing, which Blizzard has kind of worked hard to perfect. At this point, there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't just phase Dalaran to be an Alliance-only city once you accomplish those quests that tell that part of the story.
Right, exactly. And we don't get anything all that meaningful. I mean, we had some hope there at the end of, Pandaria, where King Ren is like, yeah, we're going to go to Gilneas and we're going to kick Sylvana right in your cunt bone. Mm-hmm. And then, oh, sorry guys, we didn't have time. And, like you told me the other night, well, we had, a lot of Alliance stuff planned for, did you say Cataclysm? Or was it?
Yeah, it was Cataclysm.
But we didn't have time. Well, you had time for all the fucking Horde shit. Mm-hmm. Maybe do half of that and give Alliance half of it.
Indeed. Like, we had to have Thrall's wedding, which, as far as I know, contributed nothing to the goddamn plot. Thrall's wedding, they wasted a lot of assets, a lot of time making Thrall's wedding a part of the Cataclysm experience, regardless of what faction you're on. And I've got news for you. This was a fan fiction wedding. If you're not familiar with that term, look it up. Basically what it is it's a common trope among fan fiction writers who, they take these two characters who have always been in a relationship, like, we're gonna have their wedding. And it's like the most self-congratulatory, uninteresting tripe you can imagine. Because it's all just self-fulfillment. And, that you're used to seeing that sort of thing from fan fiction writers, but it gets really bad when the people who are actually in charge of the story are doing it, because it shows that they've kind of lost all sort of, any sense of restraint or any sense of perception with that character. And with Thrall, that really shone in Cataclysm, where he became the ultimate Mary Sue. He went from being the orc having an interesting character as being the orc war chief who you could reason with, to being like this ultimate god shaman, element of the earth, and perfect in every way kind of character, and we got to see his wedding.
Right, he became Green Jesus, more or less, at that point.
Exactly, Green Jesus. say Green Jesus to people who play WoW, and they all know who you're talking about. It's Thrall. And that wouldn't have been so bad in and of itself if that was the last we saw of him, if he achieved these super uber powers right when he was sort of taking a step off to the side. But no, they kept him around because Chris Metzen doesn't know what to do without Thrall. I'm convinced at this point he really doesn't. So, this horror, I really hope Warlords of Draenor, with all, we're gonna see Thrall deal with Garrosh, we're gonna see Thrall and Garrosh, interact with their dads, we're gonna see all of these, great orc characters, finally, get some in-game WoW content. And I hope that this story just fully fleshes all of that out, and I hope it's really kick-ass, and I hope that the WoW writers, when it's all said and done, have finally had their Horde lore fill, and we can finally move on to something else.
I don't think they're going to get a fill.
Why you say that?
I don't know why. I don't know, just because I've seen nothing so far that would indicate that it's a need that they're going to ever get filled. They keep going. I mean, it's not that they don't get opportunities to write about the Alliance. They don't create any. They don't take advantage of opportunities that are there. I mean, they have this unpursued Gilnean story thread that they could do. They have
Stromguard.
They have Stromguard. Magni Bronzebeard, the former king of the dwarves. He's fucking locked, or he's turned into crystal. Presumably,
we're not sure if he's dead or not. They haven't clarified.
I was going to say, presumably not dead, just really in stasis kind of a thing is kind of what I always got out of it. So I mean, they have so much that they could do, but that they don't, so that we can hear more about, the life walk of Thrall, more or less. How he meets his woman and how he deals with his own inner demons and how, he beats Deathwing and how, he chooses Garrosh as his successor and then has to deal with the guilt from being a colossal fuck up. And then how he gets over that. And it would be now he's going to solve his daddy issues.
It would be one thing if Thrall came to terms with all of this on his own, like a healthy person. If Thrall was like a healthy individual and dealt with his problems with alcohol and self-reflection, that would be one thing. But instead he drags us along and we have to literally flick his doubt away.
Right. And for anyone who's like, God, you guys are real hard, on Thrall and all this other shit. If you haven't played the game, or you do play the game and you play Horde, it's not just because it's Horde. I mean, that's probably is a reason at some level why we bitch. But honestly, if it were any character that was getting this much focus all the time, I would be just as annoyed. It makes for a bad story.
And I know Horde players who, for one reason or another, have said, yeah, we're tired of Thrall. There are some Horde players who don't like Thrall's kind of gentler version of the Horde and dislike him for that. And I've seen Horde players who are just as tired of Thrall for the same reason that Alliance players are. In fact, when it was decided that Garrosh Hellscream was going to be deposed as War Chief of the Horde, the original plan was actually for Thrall to come back and be War Chief again. But they announced that, and the player reaction, even from the Horde, was so strong against that they had to rework things, and then Vol'jin became the War Chief. But, even Horde players were like, God, not more Thrall crap.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. I'm sorry. I'm just tired of seeing his stupid face, and I hope that I really hope that he works out his daddy issues with Duratan, and I hope he and Garrosh finally solve their little pissing match, and I hope that when all is said and done, at the end of all of this, they just say, okay, we've done the whole Horde thing, it's time to move on to other things. I hope that's what happens.
Maybe. I don't care. Okay. Give Thrall attention, fine. But don't give him all this attention that he's getting and then say, oh, well, we don't have time to do this, that, and the other. If you can do it without sacrificing if you can give more characters, even within the Horde, I'd like to know more about Bane Bloodhoof. I'd like to know more about Lothamar.
Yeah, Blaine Bloodhoof, as far as the Horde... Butthoof. No, Bane Bloodhoof got really screwed as a character on the Horde side of things, because Garrosh kills his dad.
Yeah.
Garrosh kills his dad. Like, okay, if you would have told me at the start of Cataclysm, when Garrosh kills his dad, that Garrosh is eventually going to be overthrown and a member of the Horde's going to lead a rebellion against him, I would have pegged it as Bane, because he's got all the reason in the world to want to see that guy dead. And Vol'jin, never really had that. Vol'jin kind of came out of nowhere and then they tried to build him up with in-game quests and a book.
Yeah. And to their credit, they actually did, have a Vol'jin book.
They did have a Vol'jin book, yes. But
they've done the Jaina Proudmoore Tides of War. But yeah, go on. I'm sorry.
But my point is that Bane, like, in terms of storyline, Bane never really got revenge for Garrosh killing his dad. So, as far as, even if I played Horde, if I were a Tauren player and I was interested in the Tauren story, I'd be pissed. Because the whole thing was like Bane was just, oh, you killed my dad, I guess that's fine. And then Vol'jin is the one who has to start the rebellion, and then Bane kind of goes along with it anyway. But Bane really kind of got sidelined in what should have been his story.
Yeah, and that's it again, even when they try to put focus on another character, Thrall still somehow ends up, like, working into it. Like, okay, King Varian Wren's wife could be resurrected as a human, not as a Forsaken or undead, as a human. And they could be having, like, their reunion fuck, and Thrall would be looking from the window.
You just kind of see Thrall's head pop up in, like, the corner of the window. His eyes just rise into frame.
Yeah, I mean, he works his way into everything. It just, everywhere, pretty much. There's fucking Thrall. He's shoehorned into everything, damn near. Mm-hmm. God damn it.
Indeed. And that's kind of like why when Chris Metzen has admitted that he has trouble writing for the Alliance, I don't necessarily think that's true. Because I don't think he's any better at writing for the Horde. I think he can write for orcs. I think he
can write for Thrall.
I think he writes for orcs really well. But I think once you take the orc, but once you go beyond orcs, I don't think he can write for the other races of the Horde. I don't think he's all that adept. I think he's just as stumped when it comes to writing, say, the Tauren as he is writing, say, like, the dwarves.
Yeah. Maybe Garrosh was like his experiment with writing for non-Thrall characters. Mm-hmm. Maybe he just got bored with it. Like, okay, time to start a war.
I don't think they knew what they wanted with Garrosh, honestly. Because with Garrosh, I think they started with... Because, okay, Thrall... A lot of people say that the Horde under Thrall kind of lost its edge. I think what they wanted to do with Garrosh was, at first, I think they wanted to make him a more aggressive war chief that captured some of that old Horde spirit, but that was still as honorable as Thrall's old Horde. And they kind of wanted their cake and eat it too, kind of have the old Horde but the new Horde at the same time. And when they couldn't really figure out how to reconcile those two parts, they just decided to make him, full-blown evil. And, that's fine, but yeah, I really don't think... I despite the fact that the Horde seems to be where the passion lies of Blizzard, I honestly don't think they really know what to do with it, because there are all these iterations. There's the Dark Horde led by Rend Blackhand, which is more or less the old Horde from the RTS games. There's the Iron Horde, the True Horde, the Fell Horde, and I don't think, like, they seem to be stuck between a rock and a hard place. they want a protagonistic Horde for the Horde player base to play, but they also want to keep some form of the Horde as the antagonists. And it does it, and so it just ends up getting convoluted, and it just ends up getting like Horde, because there are all these factions at play, and they try to work them all out, and it just ends up falling on its face. And again, I really hope that this whole Iron Horde business is sort of the end of that, where they finally, whatever they need to do to close that story out on the Horde end of things, I hope it gets closed out here. And we can just finally move forward, and we can finally do stuff other than following, some major Horde storyline.
Yeah, we'll see. We will see.
But moving on from that rant, we do have some listener feedback, I believe.
Yes, we do. There was a post. Let me see here. Let me get the exact post up here if I can find it. Mm-hmm. Let's see. I'm just going to call him Pinochet. He knows who he is.
He's even admitted that he doesn't think there's a proper pronunciation for his screen name, so.
Says that, with regards to the defense of Highlander 2, that, quote unquote, the reason that immortals do not fight on holy ground is simple, and it has nothing to do with that hippie tree-hugging bullshit about respecting other cultures. They showed Catholic churches because the Zeicians have accepted Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. Yes, Zeiss is a Roman Catholic world. The Roman Catholic Church has officially stated that their faith does not preclude the existence of intelligent extraterrestrial life, and just recently Pope Francis, or as I myself call him, Frankie Big Hat, said that he would baptize aliens that came into his church. The Roman Catholics are obviously a leg up on evangelizing any potential alien race any potential alien race out there. So there you have it. I mean, that explanation makes enough sense to me.
Yes. The Zeicians are Roman Catholic?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. General Katana was an altar boy?
Possibly. I mean, it would explain a lot.
Would it really? Because I don't think anything could explain a lot about that movie. Beyond my explanation, which is that they made
beyond my awesomeness.
That they made a sequel to a movie without actually watching the first one.
You know what, sir? I don't know what your problem is with progress, but...
Rams80 also had a comment last week. We briefly covered that The Rock had been cast as Shazam.
Shazam!
And according to Rams80, Shazam is, and he is correct on this, that Shazam is the ultimate Boy Scout of the DC universe, and that The Rock might not be able to pull that off, given that the movies where he does play very, Boy Scout-esque characters tend to be very bad, i.e. those Disney movies he was doing for the longest time, The Tooth Fairy being the prime example. But, and I can definitely see that, but again, I'll reiterate kind of what I said in the thread. If you haven't seen the movie Hercules starring The Rock, I'd recommend it. Because you see the trailers, and you think you know what kind of movie it's going to be, and it's so totally not that movie. And I'm not going to spoil anything, because it is one of those cases, like, we don't take spoilers very seriously here on Bags, but this is a case where I'm going to avoid spoiling the movie, because I do believe that your enjoyment of the film will be greatly diminished if I spoil anything here. So yeah, it's so not the movie that you think it is. And when you go in, The Rock, I think, plays a very morally upstanding character that I think, as sort of an update of Shazam for the silver screen, would work just fine. And so if he could basically just do that in this Shazam movie that they're going to be making, then I think as far as a casting choice, it's perfectly fine.
I don't see any issue with it. I mean, The Rock does a quote unquote good guy pretty good. He is the people's champion. That sounds so damn communist. But yeah, I mean, you know, he does a good guy pretty good. I just really can't be arsed to care enough about Shazam to really give a fuck who they cast, to be honest with you. It's another case of, do we need this? I mean, you have Superman. Do you need another Superman? Well, the whole point is that Shazam is like the ultimate way to kind of combat Superman. Because everything else kind of has a condition. It's either Lex Luthor has created some like elder demon god, or there's someone inexplicably found another chunk of kryptonite, even though it's supposed to be super rare. So, you know, Shazam is kind of a good way to provide an interesting foil for Superman. So, you know, in that space, in that kind of character space, I think Shazam works. And I admit, I will be excited if they ever do a movie where Shazam and Superman square off. I will buy the ticket to that movie. I'd pay to see that. Well, why not just put him in Batman versus Superman? Why not? I mean, let's we squeeze him in between the Flash and Arrow and Green Arrow. Yeah, why not? I mean, let's fuck it. Let's throw in Godzilla and Mothra. No. They're busy with Rodan and King Ghidorah, so you know. Speaking of, don't we have more movie news, I believe? Michael Bay, yes. And the future of his, or possibly the lack thereof, with the Transformers franchise and his plans moving forward. Michael Bay's done 4 Transformers movies. His last 2 have each made over $1 billion. But it seems as if he's he kind of wants to step away from the Transformers franchise, hand it off to someone else, and pursue some other projects. And I guess before we get into what those other projects are, because there's a lot to discuss there, I figured I'd ask you, what are your thoughts, just in general, of Michael Bay leaving the Transformers franchise as director? I don't care. No, I really don't. I mean, I don't hate Michael Bay. I think he's done. He's done great for the franchise. He seems like he's done good. But you know, I think at this point we've had a good enough of a run so far that if we change out to a new director, and it sucks ass, then at least we have what we have now, and I feel like that's sufficient. Mm-hmm. So if they're going to take a gamble with a new director, now's a good time to do it. I don't think they'd really get anyone who would tremendously cock it up. So yeah, I'm fine with it. Yeah, I'm a bit nervous because there are directors out there who I think could do it justice, but there are also a lot of trashy directors out there who I think just really wouldn't. Like, when people say that Michael Bay makes dumb action movies, he does, but he makes them with a certain amount of energy and enthusiasm that you could just tell he himself has, that just sort of make them endearing in their own way. And I'm just afraid that if Michael Bay hands it off to someone else, they'll give the franchise to someone who kind of just makes dumb action movies, but without that clear enthusiasm and energy that Bay brings to his movies, and I think things would be diminished that way. Although it would be hilarious to see Transformers 5 with a new director suck, just be absolutely irredeemable, and then have everyone who once bitched about Michael Bay beg to have him back. That would be hilarious. That would be funny. Michael Bay miss me yet? Yeah, exactly. But let's talk about what Michael Bay has lined up in the future for himself. I believe the big thing... Ouija, a Michael Bay film. Exactly. So
the Ouija board is getting a movie, which I assumed that the first Paranormal Activities film was the Ouija board movie. Apparently I was mistaken. But Ouija, a Michael Bay production. And you know what? I was not going to see a Ouija board movie before finding that out, but now I kind of want to see it.
I don't.
I kind of want to see...
I don't.
I want to see the Ouija board where the Ouija board blows things up.
Ouija board with lasers?
I want to see the Ouija board where as the Ouija thing, like, pans over the letters, like, just things blow up. And that'll be it. And the trailer will just be a Ouija board photoshopped against an exploding background. It'll just be like, yes. Ouija, a Michael Bay production.
Michael Bay presents Ouija.
A Michael Bay film.
Oh, Lordy. They need him to also direct and write this movie. The
Ouija board movie?
Yes.
Did you see Revenge of the Fallen, sir? Because that was one where he actually wrote parts of the script.
Yeah, I want this to happen for Ouija. I want this movie to tank. I want it to fail. I want it to be the worst cinematic abortion in history. I want Hasbro to lose so much money on it that they never even think of doing something that stupid ever again.
Yeah, Hasbro seems to not understand that, okay, Transformers worked because Transformers had a story inherent in it that you could just adapt to the big screen. And to a lesser extent, G.I. Joe, I mean, the G.I. Joe movies don't make as much as the Transformers movies make, but they're all still profitable. And again, G.I. Joe has a story in it that, you know, you just take the story that has been driving the toys and you just say, make a movie version of that.
Yeah.
But, Ouija has no story. It is just, like, you just buy a Ouija board and then teenage girls use it to see if they're gonna get married at slumber parties. That's it. Like, what is the story that you have? Like, I guess it'll involve, like, hauntings and ghosts and spirits from beyond the grave. But, you know, again, we had that. Paranormal Activities, the first one. They actually use a Ouija board.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Paranormal Activities, the first one, was more than suitable. It was a movie with ghosts. It had the Ouija board. And things got scary. What more do you need?
No, things did not get scary.
Well,
things never happened.
Theoretically scary things happened.
That movie was a fucking abortion.
Theoretically, scary things happened. In theory.
Yeah, presumably.
Mm-hmm. You know, General Patton there with his great baby powder offensive.
Yeah.
God, that movie was terrible. And then I want to say that they get worse, but I can't really say that because at least the newer ones have really bad action, and at least it's terrible, but at least things are happening in the newer ones. But that first one was, but yeah, this is not the show for the Paranormal Activities rant. I'm sure we'll revisit that when they announce Paranormal Activities 8, The Redeadening.
Oh yeah, why not? I mean, they're going to have as many sequels for that as they do the Land Before Time. Ooh, Paranormal Activity, Land Before Time crossover. Let's make this happen.
Is the Land Before Time even still happening?
I don't fucking know.
Were they up? They were up to like movie 14 last time I checked.
Seriously?
Yeah, like it got insane. It got to the point where it's the kiddie version of the American Pie franchise. Like, where the American Pie movies, you know, you had like the 3 American Pie movies in theaters, but then they made like 5 more direct-to-DVD sequels that were just terrible. And that seems to be what Land Before Time did. Like, you had the original theatrical run, but then they just kept making straight-to VHS DVD movies. Yeah, that's like it would, like, I don't know if this is the case. I haven't, you know, Land Before Time isn't something I'm, you know, up to date on. But if Land Before Time is at 20 films, it would not shock me.
It honestly wouldn't shock me either.
But yeah, I mean, Paranormal Activities, that's the thing. They're cheaply made, so it's easy to recoup losses. And, people like to take their girlfriends to scary movies for obvious reasons. So the returns are always very positive. So I don't suspect we've seen the end of the Paranormal Activities one. The last one was really bad. It was Paranormal Activities now featuring Mexicans.
What?
It's basically the exact same movie.
Is one of them doing the jelly sandwich thing? The jelly toast? Like from Devil?
Oh, no, it's not. No,
well, then I want to know why the fuck not.
But they do, but it's basically just it's a regular Paranormal Activities movie, only now, I guess, to freshen things up, they've replaced they're now using a Mexican family. And of course, they've got like the old Latino grandma who knows what's going on. Like it's every stereotype, that is appropriate for the genre, just sort of shoved in. It's really, really bad. The only reason I even bothered watching it was because I was really bored that day, and that was the only movie that I had any small interest in watching playing. So, yeah.
I guess you gotta switch families after a while, though, because, damn.
I think they tried to tie it back to the original family. There's some weird time travel stuff going on. Like, the ghost was transporting them back to the events of the first movie. And so, they would pop back into the house from the first movie, and, they tried to tie it to the family from the previous ones, but, yeah, it was basically Paranormal Activities now with a Mexican family. So, I suspect that...
Madre de Dios!
Send your hate mail to basically a geekshow at gmail.com.
And we were like, what, 2 or 3 weeks without a sensitivity training incident?
Yeah, now we're going to have to go back. Thanks, Jack. Thanks. Now we have to go back and sit in the circle.
Fuck that circle. I hope I don't have to sit in the same circle, because I pissed all up in that last one. I drank like a fucking 12-pack when that happened. I was like, you know what? I'm watering the flowers.
Oh, what else do we have, sir?
Let's take a gander here at the old roster. Looks like we're going to be wrapping up with some kind of a recap on the Guardians of the Galaxy numbers.
Yes, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Earnings.
This was an interesting movie I still haven't seen it, actually. It's just been a matter of timing. But Guardians, I'm trying to pull up the exact numbers. But basically,
you said it's like what, 319 million?
Yes, but basically this was interesting, as I've alluded to before, because the general audience is not familiar with Guardians of the Galaxy. They just aren't. The Guardians of the Galaxy aren't a prominent part of pop culture like, say, Spider-Man or Captain America have been. So this was interesting because it was can Marvel convince the general public to come out and see a movie about a franchise that they previously had little to no familiarity with.
And I think the answer has come back as, kinda.
Kind of, yeah.
It's made its money back.
This movie had a budget of $170 million, which is about on par for these sort of things. Box office, it has it's $319,159,666 at last count. Box Office Mojo, that is the latest estimation. I would go into what its score is on Rotten Tomatoes, but in all honesty, what the critics have to say has absolutely no bearing on the success of a movie. I mean, I think Age of Extinction is sitting at a 0.5 on Rotten Tomatoes, and it made over $1 billion. So, I really don't care what Rotten Tomatoes has to say about Guardians of the Galaxy. The interesting thing is, of course, the money. How much money did it make? It surpassed Captain America the Winter Soldier as the biggest Thursday evening start for a movie in 2014, which is getting really specific, but there you go. Guardians of the Galaxy was number one movie during its opening weekend. It grossed $94.3 million in its opening weekend, topping the Bourne Ultimatum's previous record for highest debuting movie in August. And its debut weekend was the third biggest of 2014. It still fell short behind Captain America at $95 million and Transformers: Age of Extinction at $100 million. So still a very respectable showing at the box office, but in terms of huge numbers, not really. It's still behind Godzilla. It's far behind Transformers: Age of Extinction. And before you say, well, Transformers: Age of Extinction's been out longer, yes, it has. But Guardians of the Galaxy's been out for 2 weeks now, and it's still trailing Age of Extinction and even Godzilla. I think Godzilla reached the 300 million mark quicker.
Oh yeah. Godzilla had 300 million, I think, by its second weekend.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So
it was like 330 or some shit.
Yeah. So, Guardians of the Galaxy, there are two things to take away from this. Ultimately, I think it's a win for Marvel. Again, the question, will people come out to watch a comic book movie if they have no previous attachment to the source material? And as Jack said, the answer is kind of.
I mean, they're not going to get, they know now that they can do this. They're not going to get Avengers numbers out of it. They're not going to get Iron Man numbers out of it. But they'll get numbers. They're
going to get standard successful action movie numbers out of it. And, ultimately, again, that's good for Marvel because, they're not going to get Avengers out of it, but it does kind of give them the go-ahead to make any movie based on any character they want. Because, truth be told, whether it's by Marvel just building up enough goodwill, or whether it's just they've got a really successful marketing team on their hands, I think it's a combination of both. Marvel now knows that they might not set box office records, but they can make profitable movies based on the most obscure superheroes. I've said it before, Guardians of the Galaxy scrapes the bottom of the barrel for me, and I don't say that as necessarily a bad thing. I'm not saying the books are bad, but I'm saying in terms of interest and in terms of, Marvel's roster of characters, I personally put them near the bottom in terms of importance, and I still do, but now Marvel's shown that they can take that and turn a profit with it. And so that's both good and bad as far as fans are concerned. On the bad side of things, it says that Marvel and potentially DC are going to see this and say, well, we can just flood the market with mediocre superhero movies because we know that they'll make money, and it's going to further water things down and speed up the sort of collapse of this bubble. But on the positive side, maybe along the way to that, we'll get really good movies from some really underappreciated heroes. So I can see the good and bad in this. I still haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy. I've heard mixed things. I've heard that it's both very funny, but I've also heard it's too self-referential for its own good. I've heard it's got a lot going on, and I've also heard that it's got that it's just way too bloated. So I've been hearing a lot of different things about this film. I actually do want to make it a point to see. Hopefully I'll see it by the time we record our next show. But other than that, it's probably one of those cases where Guardians of the Galaxy has not done enough to convince Marvel that they can blow away the box office with anything, but it is enough to say that, you know what, they have built up the brand recognition necessary to churn out successful action movies, and that's what this appears to be. A successful, competently made action movie that didn't set the world on fire, but convinced enough people that it was worth it for an afternoon. So
Yeah, they made their money back on it. They probably made enough to justify a sequel. There most likely will be a sequel. I'd be willing to bet.
Probably.
I've heard good things about it. I probably will give it a watch. I mean, just out of curiosity. And besides, Green Chick, hell yeah. But I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, it will be interesting. I have read the spoiler for the after credit scene though. I haven't seen it. And I guess I'm going to have to see it for myself to really form a final opinion. But I'm going to admit, when I heard what the after credit sequence was, I kind of chuckled. And I don't know, Jack, would you like me to go into what that was?
Yeah, actually.
Because I think you're going to like it.
Okay.
Most after credit sequences in Marvel films tend to build things up for the next film. The after credit sequence in Iron Man had Nick Fury stop by to lay the groundwork for the Avengers. In the after credit sequence for Thor, they further set out the plot for the Avengers. The after credit sequence of Captain America, the Winter Soldier, set up Avengers Age of Ultron. Guardians of the Galaxy's after credit scene has a cameo by Howard the Duck.
Hell yes.
Howard Duck, we often forget, is actually a Marvel property. So, I'm not saying get your hopes up for a Howard the Duck reboot, but...
And yes, I will be defending that movie at some point soon. That is actually next on my list. It's been on the request wheel for a long time and kind of got, and I apologize for that, but yeah, we'll get there.
So Howard the Duck, making a cameo, Guardians of the Galaxy. I figured you'd like that.
Yeah.
And, I don't know what to make. My guess is it's just there as a throw. I honestly can't see them making a Howard the Duck movie. Like, I really can't see it.
I could. I mean, look, they made Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, but whereas Guardians of the Galaxy had to, all it had to do was build up an audience from scratch. Howard the Duck has a lot of bad memories it would have to repair. It's got a legacy to fight against, sir.
Its time has come. Let it happen.
Maybe that'll be what you ultimately get out of this, that Howard the Duck reboot you've always wanted. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that brings basically a Geek Show, episode 27, to an end. Once again, I'd like to thank all of our listeners for joining us for 6+ months of programming, hopefully many more to come. You can catch us you can send us an email at basicallyageekshow@gmail.com, on Twitter @ageekshow, and of course you can catch us on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Spreaker, on our website at basicallyasportshow.com, as well as on the net at sportslogos.net, the forums there in the lounge. We've got a Basically Sports Show thread which covers all of our shows. You can catch our dedicated Basically a Geek Show threads at forums.taijutsu.org, and of course at TFW 2005 under the Transformers video discussions. That's where we archive our shows for the Transformers fan base out there. So catch us at any or all of those locations. We're not picky. For Jack, this is Mike signing off.
Good night, everybody.